Peace, fam. It's your brother Suit Tech checking in. I'm gonna try to make this video quick. This video will be about oral tradition. The inspiration for this video will be a dialogue I had with the older Baba Haru. Um, I can say older because, I don't want to get into that. Yeah, so this was inspired by the conversation I had with Baba Haru, explaining to him that when you use the term ancestor, that denotes the people that you descended from in the distant past. And we as African Americans, um, our ancestors being victims of the transatlantic slave trade, we do not come from East Africa. Our ancestors did not come from Kemet. I love Kemet. Do not get my argument construed or misrepresented. I love Kemet. Nothing wrong with practicing the culture, um, any part of Africa for that matter. But we have to be honest with ourselves and say, hey, the victims of the transatlantic slave trade, most of them come from West and Central Africa. The overwhelming majority, small percentage from Southern Africa, but the overwhelming majority come from West and Central Africa. So, this is what I was told. And the first statement of this comment is really what drew my attention. He said, your own people in West Africa claimed a Nile origin, bro. Uh, First of all, your own people, that is denoting that he does not associate himself with West Africa, for one. For two, that is denoting that everybody in West Africa, the whole of West Africa, claim a Nile origin, and that's incorrect. Certain tribes and ethnicities and clans, subclans may claim that they have a Egyptian origin, but that is not the whole of West Africa. Come on now, let's not play around. But the point of this video is to show how when you use these neo oral traditions, and that's what they are because they're new, you are pushing and promoting, whether you know it or not, a version of the Hamitic Hypothesis, right? These people, these Negroes, have a civilization too great, or they're doing things a little bit more on a grander scale than primitive people should be doing. These can't be Negroes from here. They have to be from here, or they have to be from Israel, or they have to be from Arabia. These are versions of the Hamitic Hypothesis. So, my point here is to show how problematic that using these modern post-colonial oral traditions can be, especially using them on their own. Oral tradition on its own is not sufficient enough to substantiate the origin of a people. And on top of that, you're using new oral traditions, modern oral traditions, even if they were ancient, though. These oral traditions alone cannot substantiate the origin of a people. This is confirmation bias. And I say it's confirmation bias because when you take a piece of information, whether it be right or wrong, and run with it while disregarding every other field of study and every other piece of information, like linguistic data, genetic data, archaeological and anthropological data, and you just take this piece of evidence because, or a piece of information, because it goes with your point, that is confirmation bias. But yeah, I want to show why using oral tradition alone by itself can be problematic. So let's take a look at it. What I got here.
So the question is, are Ebos?
Shout out to brother Dynasty Amir. This is his video. His YouTube channel is Search for Uhuru. But yeah, shout out to that brother, man. He's going back and forth to the continent like it's going out of style. And he specifically goes to West Africa the most. That's the only place I've ever seen him in is West Africa. So yeah, shout out to that brother because it is a balance needed with everybody going so crazy over Kemet. There is a balance needed. So I'm glad to say that he is one of those that deals with West Africa.
Descendants of the Hebrew Israelites. Yes, the Hebrews are the descendants of the Israelites through our father Abraham. The Hebrews come out from the seventh son of God, namely called God. That is the seventh son of Jacob, called God. That is where the origin of people come from. And by the time you trace it very well, it's traceable to the Hebrews of today that you are hearing. And for this, we have been clamoring and beckoning on our brothers from the Hebrews, with the Israelites, to come to our rescue. Right, so now you're black. The Israelites currently in Israel are white. Do you think white Israelis are going to come and say black people? All right. Do you think so? What makes us black is because when our father, the God, left from Egypt, he didn't actually join his fellow brothers back to the promised land. He left behind in Egypt and later found himself down to this part of the world because of the scorching of the sun. Okay. He gradually became a bit dark. So from that, his descendants, who are now originated in this place, that base here, that nationalize here, by the reason of the scorching of the sun, they start becoming black from one generation to another, from one generation to another. So that's why it looks as the Hebrews are white and where the Igbos are black. I don't tell you the reason why it's so. It's because of the scorching of the sun in this part of the world. We are our descendants, our fathers, our ancient fathers came down to immigrate. Why immigrate there in this part of the world? The sun was scorching, and it was the sun that reduced our color to this today. Okay, so do you believe?
Wait a minute. So, first off the rip, excuse me, y'all, because I'm a little under the weather. But first of all, off the rip, he says Abraham. He is Igbo. The Igbos are Israelites through Abraham. Now, come on now. Are we to take this serious or are we to take this with a grain of salt? We know ain't no God. We know ain't no Abraham, man. We know there is no Abraham. We know there's a mythos. Anybody with common sense and critical thinking knows that that's a mythos. Most Jews know that that's a mythos. Everybody in academia knows that that's a mythos. Only people that don't is Negroes. Negroes in America and Negroes in Africa. Like, and the uneducated also. Poor whites, they believe this too. But it ultimately comes down or comes down to the uneducated. Blacks in America are undereducated. Blacks in Africa are undereducated. So, yeah, man, we the only ones believe this. Now, you hear the problematic issues in this man's statement, in his answers? He's basically saying the Igbos are white, or they used to be white in skin color when his forefather Jacob left Egypt. Um, the 12 tribes, one of the 12 tribes, the tribe of Gad, um, gave the world the Igbos, and they were white until they migrated to sub-Saharan Africa and landed in Igbo land, settled, and became darker and darker. This is what they have this black man believing. Now, should we take this serious, or should we take this with a grain of salt? Like, this is why oral history or tradition is problematic. Yeah, you have groups in West Africa saying that they come from Egypt, but you also have groups in West Africa through influence that also think that they are from Israel. They used to be white. Their forefathers were white. That's what they believe. Through influence of the Hamitic Hypothesis. And this is the same thing you push when you try to say people in West Africa are from Kemet. So, just because you ask a people about who they are, that doesn't mean that they're going to know. You have African Americans claiming to be Moors. You have African Americans claiming to be Native Americans. You have African Americans claiming to be from a mythical continent called Mu or Atlantis. You have African Americans claiming to be of Hebrew Israelite origin from Israel or the Levant area. You have African Americans claiming that they are that they are from Arabia. You have African. I mean, it's crazy. We all over the place. Just because you ask a people who they are doesn't mean that they're gonna know. We always like to say how stripped of our culture and identity that of a people that we have become. Well, in Africa, it's the same thing. They have been stripped. A lot of them have been stripped of their identity. A lot of them have been stripped of their culture and influenced by outside sources. So, just because you ask these people who they are doesn't mean that they're going to necessarily know. Just like us, you know? So, being that it's people, groups in West Africa saying that they are from or have a Nile origin, do we take this serious or do we take this with a grain of salt? No, I'm taking it with a grain of salt until you can um, add in the studies of genetics, anthropology, archaeology, and linguistics. If all that fit together with your oral tradition, then okay, we got something. We cooking with grease now. But you're just saying that the people said this and the people said that, bro. The people don't know who the hell that they are. Just like we don't. Stop pushing the Hamitic Hypothesis. You're not no damn Egyptian. Come on home to West Africa.